Nigeria is in contention today at the Paralympic Games for a bronze medal in para badminton. And I think it looks very cheering. We could get it. They haven't lost out on the gold and silver medal placing in para badminton. Mike, now let's get to the other sports left for us here. Now, first, before we go to football, where there was some good news for Nigeria in the early hours of this morning, let's look at the Italian Grand Prix. It is come and gone, and the home side, Ferrari, by just 2.6 seconds, emerged winners. Charles Leclerc, the driver for Ferrari, doing the home side, but let's say the home team, some favor there.
Yeah, very impressive one from Charles Leclerc, and being at your home ground, you want to also showcase that, great side of your game out there, and that is what he did out there by making sure he comes first in that very impressive display from Charles
Oscar Piastri of McLaren was pushing really hard, but just 2.6 seconds.
Yeah, you need to also give kudos to Oscar Piastri. He did his best, but his best wasn't just good enough, as McLaren has the final laugh at the end of it. But maybe some of the highlight is about Max Verstappen, finishing out of the podium. He finished as much as 6th position. And now, as it stands, the point lead of the Red Bull in the Constructors' Championship has further been, reduced.
Just 8 points more?
Yeah.
Only 8 points difference between them now and, of course, McLaren.
Yes. And for me, it's beginning to become a big worry, because it looks as though the form of Max Verstappen is gradually, dropping every week when the Formula One race comes up. And no thanks to his teammate, talking about Sergio Perez, who has been very, very weak. He has been very, very slow, because if he has been finishing within the podium, at least that will accrue some points to add to what Max Verstappen has been doing, and then they will continue to ride. But the Red Bull seems to be one-man race where it is only Max Verstappen, and whenever Max Verstappen doesn't make a podium finish, you don't expect anything good from, Sergio Perez, and it's a very disturbing one. Looking at the point right now, it's very, very close, and they might even lose this one, because we still have about 8 races before the end of this, season Formula One. But big congratulations to Charles Leclerc out there for his impressive display.
8 points difference between the leading side, talking about Red Bull now and McLaren, and I think that is possible to be closed out in the next game, so to say. But we are having just a resurgence of Lewis Hamilton caught back again. This race in Italy, we saw him as the fastest driver in the in just about the practice match.
Yeah.
But now he's slipped out of the podium and is 5th place after competition at the Italian Grand Prix.
Not a good one for Lewis Hamilton, because we saw that resurgence some time ago, where he finished within the podium. The podium, and then we begin. There is this talk that he's needing to get back his mojo, but he couldn't keep up to that pace. Very disappointing. But then he has given his word. This is that he's going to give everything possible for the Mercedes side before finally leaving for 2025 out there. So let's just keep our fingers crossed. Like I said earlier, we still have about 8 races to go. Maybe, just maybe, he can make at least 1 or 2, podium finish before this season comes to an end. And
the second driver for Mercedes, he seems to have been slided as well, George Russell. Completely, I think he's placed 7th. A little just, let's say, well, when you look at the table and you see that the man everybody's talking about, the driver from Red Bull, slipped up to the 6th place position. Is it 7th at the end of the Italian Grand Prix?
6th place. 6th place. That is where Max Verstappen finished, and his teammate finished 8th. I talked about George Russell. So for me, for the Mercedes drivers, I think look as though this season is not just their own. But then we saw some resurgence from Lewis Hamilton. Like I said earlier, then there is this talk that he's beginning to get back his mojo but it wasn't to be. I think that Mercedes just need to let go of this season and probably go back and prepare Cup next season. We saw this dwindling performance also last season where they continued to falter, thereby allowing Red Bull to dominate, the scene. I don't know what seems to be the problem, but I know certainly that they need to work on their engine. Talking about Mercedes, over 2 years right now, they are still talking about the same thing. And I believe their chief principal need to do everything possible to ensure that they work on their engine so that they can compete favorably, where just a little touch of the McLaren's engine, you can see what they are doing right now, beginning to compete and push even Red Bull, by the corner as it stands right now. So Mercedes truly need to just work on their engine if they want to compete on the highest level with the likes of Red Bull.
Well, we just hope that they can get better. The Azerbaijan Grand Prix is up next on the calendar for races for 2024-2025 Formula One season. Away from Formula One now, let's get to football, and we'll first start on the local scene. And in the next few hours from now, we will see Rivers United up against Enyimba International in a pre-season friendly. Just before we get to the season, which actually started at the weekend, Rivers United, under the tutelage of Finidi George, up against his former side, Enyimba International, in a tune-up game aimed at getting the team ready for Game 1, the Nigerian Professional Football League season.
Yes, for me, I think this is more like a dress rehearsal for Rivers United and the Enyimba as they get set to, put themselves in a better shape and their players in better shape for next week Nigerian Premier Football League game. But I tell you, I think this one is not going to be anything serious because the league, they will kickstart their league come next season, just few days, just call it 7 days today or less than. So some of the key players out there wouldn't want to take it very serious because they might be afraid, not just might, they will be afraid of sustaining injury where the league is yet to, when they have yet to kick, an official game in the Nigerian Premier Football League for the season 2024. So more like a finishing touches, a dress rehearsal to get themselves in a proper position and shape for their next week game. So, but then it's going to be a good one to see Finidi George playing his former side that he just left a few months ago. Wait to see that very well. It's going to be very exciting.
Well, talking about excitement, that was what we saw on showcase at the weekend at the Nnamdi Azikiwe Stadium, out there in Enugu. It's the kickoff of the football season here in Nigeria, and Rangers International, the defending champions, was in action against Academy Warriors that came from the lower rung of the league that won the FA Cup. Mike, what happened? This is untraditional. They've lost. They lost points because they actually dropped 2 points on the first night at the cathedral, so to say. They are not used to dropping points at the cathedral, but in this opener for the 2024-2025 football season here in Nigeria, Rangers International was forced to a goalless draw with Academy Warriors.
I think it's not surprising for me. I think Academy Warriors, as a newcomer, they want to make a statement of intent, and they are also, vexed by the fact that they lost at the Continental game. They have been knocked out because they were one of the 4 teams representing the country in the CAF organized competition. Having been knocked out in that very way, I think they are now focusing their egg in the league to make sure that at least they give a good representation of themselves, having come back from relegation this time around, and that is why it looks very, very difficult for Enugu Rangers at the Cathedral to take home all 3 points. But then there are some other areas we need to also briefly talk about before we pass over this very, issue. The angle that I'm very excited is about the introduction of communication gadgets by the referee. We saw that one was actually deployed yesterday at the Cathedral, where the referees as well were given some, communication gadget to make the work easier for them. And so for me, I think I'm very, very happy. For Enugu Rangers dropping a point, I think this is just the start of the league. There's nothing to worry yet. You listen to Fidelisi Lechuku talking after that game. You say, yes, this is what you should expect as a champion, as a defending champion. Everybody coming against you is going to throw everything possible just to make sure that they dethrone you. But then they are ready for what lies ahead.
Well, talking about the kickoff of the new football season here in Nigeria, Other matches did not take place because we had only one game at the weekend. The first game of the season actually for the other teams will be this weekend. But like you mentioned there's now the introduction of communication gadgets for referees to use in ensuring that the game becomes easier for both players and the fans as well, and for the officials themselves. There's now clarity amongst the officials, all of them working for the interest of the game. So the Nigerian Football League season has started, and Rangers International and Academy Warriors have kicked it off. So the other teams, 18 teams, will be in action this weekend. Well, talking about Nigerian football, it was late in last night in Bogota, Colombia, because the Falconers, in their first game at the FIFA Under-20 World Cup, beat South Korea by 1-0. That goal came almost to the end of the encounter. Or what does it matter? It is first win for Nigeria at the FIFA Under-20 World Cup.
Yes, it doesn't matter the time where the goal came. What matters is about the fact that they were able to take home all 3 points, which is for me very, very important. And they need this kind of confidence going forward. In your first game, such a big stage, winning your first game is very, very key, because it gives the players that confidence going into the next game. And I tell you, Nigeria will have a very rich history in terms of the women under-20. Don't forget that we are among one of the first countries that have never missed out of this competition any year that it's being hosted since its introduction. And we've actually made some remarkable mark. In 2010 as well, we got verified 2014. So we have a very rich history, in this very one. But then I think it's very, very good to always start on a very positive note. Winning your first game gives the players that room to also balance and settle down for their next game. So big congratulations to them.
Falconers with their first win at the FIFA Under-20 World Cup. Their next encounter comes up in the next 48 hours when they will take on the ladies from Germany. Meanwhile, just before we get at some foreign football stories for you on this edition of the program, the Super Eagles of Nigeria and their handlers are expected to arrive at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium today to begin their preparation towards the weekend fixture aimed at qualifying for the 2025 African Cup of Nations against Benin Republic and, of course, Rwanda a couple of days thereafter. Are we having any news of early arrivals so far at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium or in Uyo, where the team is expected to be camped and leading up to the encounter?
Yeah, not yet. No any arrival into the camp yet, but we will just hope that maybe before the end of today, we are going to see some players. Don't forget, over the weekend, some of these players were in action for their clubs out there. Italian Serie A is on, English Premier League, Ligue 1, German Bundesliga. And this is where most of our players ply their trade out there. So you don't expect them after finishing game last night, a few hours ago, to breeze into the camp, today. But then we are expecting some of them to arrive maybe this evening, but we'll keep you up to date with the latest arrival. Maybe in the evening when we'll come back, here for Sport Extraordinary. Don't forget, 6 p.m. Nigerian time, we'll be back with yet another rule of what is happening latest in the world of sports. Definitely, we should know of the arrivals at the Godswill Akpabio Stadium ahead of the very crucial leg match on Saturday against the counterparts from Benin Republic. Now, let's quickly now go to Europe, and there were a return of football in Europe at the weekend. We'll first start with the Premiership in England, where Chelsea were disappointed. A lot of people thought that from what we saw of them in their second game, and that they were going to, they scored goals, no doubt about it. But they found it very difficult at Stamford Bridge, of all places, because they were forced by Crystal Palace to a 1-1 draw. I haven't seen them score, Chelsea score first. Fans thought more goals were coming. But Crystal Palace had a completely different idea in the second half. Yeah, Crystal Palace is a very tough opponent to play against. Don't forget, this same Crystal Palace actually dismantled Manchester United last season, disgraced with Manchester United, 4-0 in the game ended. So Crystal Palace is no pushover, especially when they at least made 1 or 2 recruitments to add more force after letting go the likes of Olise to Bayern Munich. They had to do a little bit of rejigging, do some reshuffling in their team out there. So I think it's a very disappointing one, no doubt, for Chelsea Football Club. Having taken that lead in the early stage of first half, 25-minute strike from they ever criticized Nicola Jackson, but then he was able to at least make that one count. At some point, the fans are beginning to get excited that it's going to be maybe goal galore, just like what they did against Wolves. But then Crystal Palace, just like you said earlier, had a different, game plan as well. They came back to hunt Chelsea. Thank God they even managed to hold on to 1-1 draw. If not, I tell you, Crystal Palace should have even stunned Chelsea at the Stamford Bridge. But then we are waiting to see what Enzo Maresca can be able to do with this team. Don't forget, it's still a very young team, and with a new coach, you don't expect them to hit the ground running. But then, I think not a good one, dropping 2 points at home.
Talking about dropping 2 points at home, Arsenal dropped 2 points at the Emirates because Brighton forced them to a 1-1 draw. With the record given to Declan Rice in the first half, or just in the 3rd minute of the second half of that encounter.
Arsenal should be thanking their God that they were able to at least, take a point in that very game, because you know how difficult it is playing 10 against, 11. Such a team that is tutored by a very young coach. Talking about Brighton, they've sold some players and made some good amount of money for themselves. Sold their coach Roberto Di Zerbi as well, who is now at Olympique Marseille. Brought a new coach, just 31 years old. That is how their coach is. So you saw their first 2 games. They won their first 2 games, draw the 3rd game against Arsenal. So Brighton, they are not pushover. Like I said, Arsenal need to even thank God that they went home with a point in that game.
While Chelsea and Arsenal dropped 2 points at their respective home grounds, it wasn't the same with Manchester United. Manchester United dropped all 3 points at Old Trafford. Yes, Liverpool went to Old Trafford and did conquer Manchester United by 3 unreplied goals. It could have been 5 goals going by the count.
Disappointing one, disastrous outing for Manchester United. That is, as the theatre of dream, they are not dreaming anything positive as it is, and Eric Ten Hag continued to get some blushes from ex-Manchester United players out there because of his tactical rigidity. He don't know what to do at the right point in time. He always sub the right players at the wrong one, at the wrong time as well. So for me, I think quite disappointing, especially seeing some of the big names coming to the Old Trafford to watch that very one live. Sir Alex Ferguson was there. The 25% shareholder, talking about Jim Ratcliffe, was also in the stand as well. He saw his countenance, how disappointed he was shortly after they scored the 3rd goal. So also for me, Manchester United just need to watch it. 3 games played so far, 3 points gathered, 5 goals conceded, 2 scored. So very disappointing start for Manchester United this season. But let's hope that they are going to turn things around for themselves as the season continues to come.
Meanwhile, Newcastle were 2-1 better over Tottenham Hotspur at the weekend as well in the Premiership in England, where we saw Brentford beat Southampton by 3 goals to 1. Everton continued to lose because Bournemouth beat them by 3 goals to 2. It was 1-1 between Ipswich Town and Fulham. Leicester City playing at home lost. Aston Villa beating them by 2 goals to 1. It was 1-1 between Nottingham Forest and Wolverhampton Wanderers, while West Ham lost at home. Manchester City pummeled them by 3 goals to 1. And of course, these 3 goals all coming from the boot of Erling Haaland. Erling Haaland now has scored twice, consecutively hat-tricks, and that's a big record, which is just only in the history of the Premiership, only himself and yet another player, only 2 of them have scored 2 consecutive, hat-tricks in an encounter in the Premiership in England. Definitely when we come back at 6 p.m, we'll bring you more details, a highlight of what transpired in the Premiership in England. Meanwhile, we'll cross over quickly to Spain, where the biggest highlight of the matches that were played at the La Liga at the weekend was Kylian Mbappe's 2 goals against Real Betis. He played 3 games, and now in the 4th game, he was able to score 2 goals where he could not score any in the first 3 fixtures. 1 game, 2 goals. Has Kylian Mbappe started his goal runs for Real Madrid?
Yeah, for me, I think he has, because taking a look at his total display yesterday, aside from the goal, these 3 games that he has played without scoring has shown that glimpse of quality in him. So for me, I think he has started, to gain that confidence back. Having played 3 games without scoring any, there so many people begin to talk some different kind of thing. But I tell you, the quality of Kylian Mbappe is never in doubt any day, any time.
Kylian Mbappe's quality is not in doubt, and we hope he will continue to get you goals. And there are some other results of matches that were played at the weekend in the La Liga. We saw Alaves beat Las Palmas by 2-0. It was 3-2 between Osasuna over Celta Vigo. Sevilla lost at home. Girona beat them by 2-0. It was goalless between Getafe and Real Sociedad at the weekend in the La Liga. Barcelona earlier had beaten Real Valladolid by 7 on-reply goals. That was a whack from FC Barcelona, while Atletico Bilbao lost at home Madrid. Madrid beating them by 1-0. Espanyol were 2-1 better than Real Vallecano, while Leganés lost at home to Real Mallorca. It was 1-1 between Valencia and Villarreal. Let's quickly go to Italy. We saw the return of Romelu Lukaku, who scored for his side at Napoli, a team where there was no Victor Osimhen.
Very impressive start for Romelu Lukaku. At a point where it looked as though Parma was going to run away with all 3 points, but Lukaku came in at the nick of time to score that equalizer in the 90-plus minute. At some point, some person began to, think that it is all done and dusted for Napoli. They were going to drop all 3 points, but Lukaku came in. He made the difference before they actually struck late to take home all 3 points. And we saw the jubilant Tony Conte on the stand out there. So for me, very good one. But some of the highlights is about the talk surrounding Victor Osimhen, that he has been ostracized out of the team and all of that. But then, you say 3 points, it is all that matters for Napoli.
There will be a comprehensive look at what has transpired in Europe when we return at 6 p.m. for Sports Extraordinary. But don't forget that Harcourt continues to score for Bayern Munich. It's on a sad note. So Bamba, remember him, played for the Ivorian national team, the Elephants of Cote d'Ivoire, has passed on at the weekend in Turkey. Really sad, where he was technical director of one of the Turkish club side. Heart at this point goes out to the family of So Bamba, ex-international for the Elephants of Cote d'Ivoire. That will be it. We'll return at 6 p.m. Until then, remember, peace and unity are clearly part